Welcome back to another Post-Media Senators panel. I'm Bruce Garrioch with Ken Warren, and we're pleased to be joined this week by Belleville Senators coach Troy Mann. And Troy, you've finally opened your season after, I think, probably one of the longest training camps in your history. How has it been?
You know what? Under the circumstances, it's been very, very good. I know personally I've been in Ottawa here since December 30th, so we're getting close to that 2-month mark. But it's been interesting, how it's transpired from main camp with the Sens to what we call the transitional camp. And we really ultimately never did have an AHL camp per se, although we did were able to get our AHL contracted guys quarantined, and we did get them on the ice for 3 or 4 practices before we played game 1, just because we weren't allowed to combine basically transitional team, which was basically the guys that attended Sens training camp and the American League contracts. So now it seems a little bit more normal in terms of having your team together, although our body count is obviously a little bit higher than you would like to, because it's I know NHL coaches have said the same thing, and I talked to DJ. It's tough managing big numbers and keeping everybody happy.
Just to the start of the season, 3 games already with Laval. I mean, I know it's early on, 3 games. The adjustment for the players and the start of the 3 games. What have you taken away so far from your start?
Well, I do like the coachability factor of our team. There's multiple changes from last year's team, and the adjustments or the improvement we made from Saturday to last night was excellent. Just from a practice and video perspective, we had a number of changes in the lineup, but we went in. You never want to lose hockey games, but game 1 and game 2 was a little bit disappointing. But then when you look at the big picture of players not playing in 11 months, AHL guys sitting in quarantine for 14 days, basically, trying to get workouts in their hotel room, and then the adjustment for all these first-year players, because the team is ultimately probably even younger than last year's team. So when you combine that, and the fact that Laval started much, much earlier than us, and they had a bigger camp of 34 players, where at least you were able to scrimmage against someone, where we were basically skating with 12 skaters and 2 goalies, playing small area games and doing skill development. So I felt on last weekend that they were definitely a step quicker than us and ahead of the game. But I thought we made improvements last night, and hopefully that'll continue.
I look at we wanted to look at some players on your roster while we've got you here, Troy. And one of the guys I wanted to talk to you about was Alex Formenton. I think he was a guy that maybe people expected to push for a spot in training camp. Obviously, things are different here, but it's doing him some good to play some games, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he needs to be what Drake Batherson was to us last year. And I'm not saying they're the same type of player, but I'd like to see Formy here in the early going, really put the team on his shoulders. Now, I don't think he has the offensive prowess of a Drake Batherson, but he's certainly got some other elements of his game, from penalty killing to elite speed. So he can be that go-to guy for us in a different manner. And, our message to him is he needs to be a top 3 player for us on a night-to-night basis and continue to improve, because we do know he's going to get an opportunity at some point between now and the end of the season, whether it's a trade deadline or earlier. We know he's going to get games, and there's no doubt in my mind that unless something really goes off the rails, that Forming should be part of the left wing team next September.
I find it interesting. You're mentioning Formenton. It's a down the road thing with the big club. Maybe a 2-part question here. Winning down there in the AHL versus the development thing. I know that's always been a really interesting question for somebody in your position. And that, I guess, maybe leads us into Logan Brown. I know he was injured last game. They sent him down with the purpose of hoping to get his game going so he could come back up. Just how your take on those sort of things you have to deal with down there?
Yeah, it's a balance, and this is an odd year, right? We all know that there's probably, or there is going to be no Calder Cup this year, because I don't see how we're going to get across the border. I know that they're going to wait to just determine playoffs come April, and we really hope there is playoffs to have some type of winner for the Canadian division, because to me that's part of the motivation of becoming a better player and a better team is ultimately winning. And I'm a big proponent of having the winning as part of the player development. And when it comes to the players, ultimately it is about trying to get them to the next level. But winning needs to be part of that. And I don't think Formington and Ridley, Gregg, and all our younger guys like Thompson, you can do both. And I know from a coaching perspective, that's what we're trying to do here, even though this is going to be a little bit of an odd situation where, some nights there's going to be some decisions made that might not be more for the development of the player.
Just to follow up with Logan Brown and his situation, which seems a little bit, I don't know if it's unique, but they sent him down hopefully with the purpose of playing well so he could come back up, right?
Yeah, Logan, he played game 1 and game 2, and it wasn't his best. He needs to play better, in my opinion, as the head coach. And I will say that it was 12 months to the day, quite frankly. His last game last year, if everybody remembers, he didn't play the last month of the season. So February 15th, 2020 was his last hockey game. So it was 12 months off. So we'll certainly give him the benefit of the doubt that he needs to get his legs. And, unfortunately, he's got a minor injury they missed last night. He's doubtful for Friday, potentially going to play Friday. But again, I don't suspect he's going to play Friday. So then we're going to have to go another 11 days before our, home opener, March 3rd. So, but at the same time, he needs to be the go-to guy. He needs to put the team on his back so he can get that opportunity in Ottawa.
It's interesting because, that's one of the things we talked about was the importance of him staying healthy. But one of the other guys I wanted to ask you about, because we didn't see much of him in Ottawa, obviously, Troy, is Lassie Thompson. And one of the things they talked about in training camp was that he made a steady improvement. What have you seen in him?
Well, I know last night's game was way better than his first 2 games, and, David Bell just finished doing video with him again here about 15 minutes ago. So he's like a sponge, tremendous coachable. We put him on the first power play last night, and we're going to give him a shot to run the first power play. So, you can tell his confidence is getting and his familiarity with the league. That's going to take some time. But in our opinion, we've seen a difference already from game 1 to game 3. So that's certainly encouraging. From a coaching side, if we can get him called up next year, I think we're ahead of the game. But I do think there's going to be a development process with this player. And, I think 22, 23 is more realistic for him. It's a tough position to play, the language barrier, the rinks. But we're going to get him where he needs to be this year. And like I say, hopefully after Christmas next year, if we can get him called up, I think we're ahead of the game from a development perspective.
You talked about the uniqueness of this situation. You're also, I guess, in a way benefiting. You've got Ridley Gregg in there, who in normal circumstances, I guess, would be playing in the WHL, and I guess he's probably going to go back if that league starts up. But having a chance to have a kid that young get a chance to play pro, I guess that's got to be an advantage for his development.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know Jacob Verana was one player that I coached in Hershey that came over as a 19-year-old, but those were those special rules for European players drafted. But in Ridley's case, ultimately he has to go back to Brandon. And, I think it was Murray out in Anaheim, who's been a promoter from a GM's perspective of trying to get one exempt player for each NHL team. And here's a prime example, and we're all living it right now, where Ridley Gregg, to me, should be with us. Now, I'm not saying he's not going to develop in Brandon, but, he's been arguably our best player or best forward over the 3 games. So very impressive young kid. He only weighs $167, but he's extremely strong. We believe in a short period of time, he's improved over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And we do believe that he's going to be a special player, and it's got tremendous upside. So we certainly can't say enough about this player, and I had no idea who he was until he was picked. So I think we got a good one here for the organization moving forward.
Before we wrap up here, Troy, I just wanted to ask you one of the things I believe this organization believes that one of its strengths is goaltending. And Philip Gustafson, as we speak to you today, is coming off a pretty strong effort in Laval. I think Joe Decord would want to have a better effort than he had on the weekend. But do you feel like that is a strength for your team this season?
Yeah, I think all 3 goalies, they're going to see plenty of time and plenty of games. And Decord, I thought he was excellent early on in that first game and got tired as it, the game progressed, and probably normal considering with an injury, as we know, last year. And then Mando came in and got his first pro start. But from Gus's perspective, I thought he was excellent last night. He looked confident in the net. And as I said to Pierre Dorion today when we were just talking about the games, I felt from the bench, and this is the indication from a head coaching side of things, is when your goalie looks big in the net and looks confident, it makes you feel good from a coaching side of things. And that's what I felt with Gus last night. So a great start for him. He's had his ups and downs over his 2 years, still a very, very young guy. So there's some potential there. I know Justin Peters really likes his skill set. They're building a good rapport. And Justin Peters has went through a lot of ups and downs over his career. So I think he's the perfect guy to take Gus to the next step. And we'll see, once we get him back in the net here in a couple weeks.
I guess, and this will be the last question. I guess that the big thing is, though, Troy, you're going to play a 36-game season, I believe, right? And can you get the development you want from these players to have in such a shortened season?
Well, it's certainly not ideal. You'd love to have your hands on them for 8 months and even take a long playoff run, because the history of the American League, it shows that the 2 teams that play in the finals usually graduate anywhere from 6 to 9 players off that team to the NHL team. So to me, that's a big part of development. But, the alternatives is not playing any games. And to me, that would stall the development of the player. And not only that, it would stall where the organization is. Let's face it, we're in a rebuild right now, and it's imperative that these players continue to move forward with their games. And the only way to do that is to practice and play games. So we'll certainly take the 36 under the circumstances. Where guys will be come mid-May. We hope they're all better players. That was the message when we started, was let's try to win as many games as we can. But at the end of the day, individually, specifically the draft picks and the young guys that are on the cusp, like at Formington, let's try and build your game to get you to the next level, where the organization, because the pandemic is not stalled, with ultimately getting players to Ottawa and for DJ and his staff.
Great. Well, listen, we really appreciate your time. For the Post-Media Senators panel, thanks to Belleville coach Troy Mann for joining us today. With Ken Warren in Ottawa, I'm Bruce Garrioch.
Thank you.